jam-packed program today, so we'll try to keep us on track. And we have a very exciting panel starting at 1 o'clock. And the moderator is Lily Wang, and I'll let her introduce all the speakers. Please go ahead.
I hope our panel is exciting enough for you guys after lunch. So I'm Lily Huang. I work for Silicon Valley Bank. And I don't want to do too much commercial, but I'm very happy working there. And because I really enjoy working with all the people, all the entrepreneurs that we bank. We bank about 50% of the venture-backed companies in the US, and there's about half the venture funds in the world. Okay, that's it for me. So let me pass to my first panelist. And I would like to say a couple things. I think our panel, it's a great representative, it's a great representation of what Silicon Valley is, because those are the people that is very active in the industry, and that's what makes Silicon Valley is so unique. That's what makes Silicon Valley successful. So let me start with Vivian. Wait.
So my name is Vivian Wang. I'm a partner at Deloitte. So Deloitte is all-purpose sort of a service company. And most people probably know Deloitte as a more of an accounting firm. So the reality is we do more than accounting. We have our consulting, a lot of even human capital services, etc. But my technical background is international tax. And I also lead our Chinese service group practice for the US, specifically from a tax function perspective. So, well, in Silicon Valley, our client base is actually similarly, startup companies all the way to public Fortune 500 companies. And specifically in the China-US area, we have a lot of push in terms of helping Chinese companies to enter into the US market. So that's about me for now.
Hello. I'm Michael Zhang. I'm a standing representative of Shanghai Yangpu Innovation Center at Silicon Valley. So as many of you may have known Yangpu, right? Yangpu actually is the largest district in Shanghai. It is the place that have tens of good universities, including Fudan and Tongji. Right. A few years ago, the government saw the opportunities to have innovation space established at Yangpu, and so they rolled out a 3-3-10 plan. Right. 3 basically is the 3 objectives and 3 projects, and 10 basically is the 10 policies. Some of you may have heard about that. Basically, there's some free startup fund, right, up to 1 million RMB to help entrepreneurs, business owners want to expand or start up their ventures in Yangpu. And some other benefits, including some of the business like office rental or subsidized, and some other credit loans, right? So we have actually pretty decent plan, and we have brochures outside. If you're interested, you can take it and find more details. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Farn. I'm the lawyer on the panel. So I work at Fenwick & West. Many of you, if you're from this area, know us. We specialize just in technology and life sciences company. We do primarily U.S. law, but we take companies all the way from startup to very large companies. Startups, for example, would include, we did the original incorporation of Apple, so we represented them when they were a startup. And not all of our startups grow up to be as large as they are, but we hope that they all do. And our large clients include, in addition to Apple, names like Cisco. We do all of their acquisitions. Facebook. On the Chinese side, we represent Tencent and Alibaba. So we represent Alibaba in the recent deal with Yahoo. We represent Tencent in some of their ventures in the U.S. So my area of specialty is intellectual property, and I also do a fair amount with China, both in terms of U.S. companies who are interested in going to China, very interestingly, Chinese companies who are very successful in China and now want to enter the US market.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karina Wu from Silo.com. I'm the Global Partnership Manager responsible for the UK and the US market. We're based primarily in London and Shanghai. In the US, we belong to Dice Holdings, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. So it is my first time in the US, actually. So it's great to be here, and thank you. And it's great to work with organizations such as SVC Wireless. If you do want to know more about Silo.com, obviously go on our website, but we also have some marketing materials out there that you can check out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eduardo. I'm from Brazil, and I work in a company called Movile. Movile is the largest mobile platform for content and mobile commerce in Latin America. So I would love to help you to understand the Latin American region and how to make business with Latin America. I have a very interesting experience because we started in Brazil and we grew to the other 20 countries in Latin America. And now, 1 year and a half ago, I arrived here in Silicon Valley to expand our business here to US market. So I would love to cooperate and share with you part of my experiences.
Thank you.
And just my relation with China, our investors are the same investors that invested in Tencent, I think 10 years ago. So we understand a little bit how internet market works in China. We understand very well how Tencent works. And yeah, we have the same investors and we have some kind of experience.
So for technology company, what we've seen, a lot of names that just now Vivian and Michael mentioned that are, also our bank clients as well. I think that shows to me that technology company have certain, they develop in a certain character that, they tend to choose certain service provider that understand what they need. So for our clients, they tend to go global very, very early. That's what we found. Our FX, exchange activity, foreign exchange activity, occurred in very early stage companies because we believe that innovation, if it's innovation to one country, then that is the innovation to the world in general. And also the cost, of goods, or the cost of going international is much lower right now for a technology company. So I would like to ask Vivian the first question. What do you see when company going abroad, when they go to another market? It's probably a very natural thought for them, a natural move. But it's not necessarily an easy thing. And we see a lot of company making mistakes. And I would love to have you to share with us what are the common mistakes that company make, not just big company, big and small, and what's the best practice that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I would say whenever a company go abroad, you need to understand the local culture, how to do business in that local jurisdiction. Now, my practice is very much focusing on tax issues, right? So by the time clients come to me, they generally either run into some problem or already hear too many different things, conflicting answers. So I would say the biggest mistake is a lot of Silicon Valley company, when they're small, they think, well, we cannot afford big lawyers, big accountants. Let me ask my friend, right, what to do. And well, it's always good to have good friends, but the friend's not the expert, right? So I've seen a lot of mistakes being done that way. Okay, so the friend situation may not be exactly the same. So, and most likely are very different. And things change rather quickly, especially we're talking about emerging markets. Same thing the other way. So the Chinese company come in, I run into that kind of comment very, very often. Another thing is, lucky part is actually there's a lot of platform like SV Wireless here, and many other platforms will give access to entrepreneurs for sort of a cheap service provider, like these kind of seminars, right? So there's a way for you to access to expertise. That's number one. And number two is, I think, especially in the area where I see the Chinese company coming into the US, I think it's probably because sort of culture, they tend to appreciate the service providers where can rescue them from big problem more than the service provider can keep them out of problem. So they're like, wow, you know, not until show me how much tax I can save, right? Yeah, not until why do I need to do this until IRS really caught me? That kind of mistake. So I think be able to, in terms of best practice, I think really utilize resource, talk to your friend, but find a source where your friend got advice, and be able to utilize these free service provider channels, get to the right answer, and understand the local culture as well. Okay.
Let me go to Michael on that one. People always think big names means expensive, a lot of money. You know, please go ahead with that.
Yeah. So we have our bread and butter is startups, right? You don't get to represent the Ciscos unless you represented them when they were 2 people. And so I think everyone in the Valley, you know, we certainly have our hourly rack rates, which are fairly expensive, but we also are designed so that we can take on startups, you know, in a very sort of affordable way that makes sense for them, because you know, that's part of our business plan. And so I think that actually is one thing that's very different for, you know, people who are service providers in the Valley, because, you know, I deal day in and day out with 2 people who are thinking of leaving, you know, their jobs. They have families, they have mortgages, you know, they have this idea, they want to follow their dream, but, you know, gee, do I really want to give up my steady pay to, you know, work for nothing for a couple months or a couple years and try to make it work? And if I do, you know, I'm going to be paying for everything out of my checking account. I don't really want to be writing large checks to my lawyer at that point, you know. And so, you know, people understand that it's just a different business model working with startups than working with more established companies. So I you know, I'll speak for myself, but I would expect that the other service providers in Silicon Valley, you know, sort of have a similar mentality and experience.
So Eduardo, and I think your company has a presence here as well, right? Do you see the same thing? Do you think that service provider that here actually are very friendly to startups?
Very, very friendly. I'm not sure. No, what happens with Silicon Valley, we have an amazing system where everything works well, and you can easily find a way to solve your problems. And the rules are especially comparing with Brazil, the rules are clear, and it's easy to find a service provider, or it's easy to find somebody that gives you a feedback or introduce you to a person that will solve your problem. So, and people understand the startup situation, and they are ready to adapt themselves to the startup situation. I felt that I was in the same situation that Michael said here with my lawyer, that we are arriving here. We are a big company in Latin America, but we don't have an infinite budget here to spend with a lawyer. And these guys helped me to understand how things work here, and they understood that they couldn't ask me for a big check up front, and so I see a very established system to help startup to grow.
Great, very good. Talking about Brazilian, I was in a taxi yesterday. That's how culture different is. I was about an hour late for the meeting, and the taxi driver was from Brazil. She said, "You're fine. If it's Brazil, you're perfect on time." Yeah. So, and the next question, I would love to get Michael's from Yangpu, Michael Zhong. Yeah. So, one thing that for company going to China is the role of government is very puzzle. It's some company that they think government is extremely important, and some company think that Chinese company just trying to get government's resource. I would love you to talk about the role of government, how company going abroad, going to China especially, should work with government.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's true, man. We actually have heard variety of government incentive plans, right, from China, right? Try to attract or entice entrepreneurs go back to China. It's true. I mean, it's a different business environment in China versus the U.S., right? So for people try to get to China, especially for these startups, right? I think that if you can get help from the government initially, that's actually very helpful, right? And there are many technology parks. There are many district or regional kind of plans, or even the central government level plans, right? Basically, those plans actually help you, especially initially set up, right? Build your team, set up your office. Also, the government, especially the district government, right? After they set up all those programs, they want this program to have some kind of results, right? They want all you guys, if you go to that park or go to that region, you can be, try to be successful. So they kind of help you to build all those kind of networks, right, among the companies within that park or even beyond. And thirdly, is some of the programs actually, especially Yangpu, they provide actually there are some kind of free services, right? For let's say we have a few venture capital fund, right? Basically, ask those venture capitalists and experts, right, to help the entrepreneurs or the portfolio companies, right? And basically is to whichever the stage your company is, right, is basically early stage or is a growth stage. So it can help you to to build your product services, or you expand your partnership. I think lastly, one of the roles government can play is help you understand the policies. Right? I mean, if you be in China, that government policies sometimes change frequently. So if you have good relationship, build good connections with government, probably you will be definitely beneficial, right? If you follow those policies pretty well, you could be not get into trouble. But otherwise, could be problematic, right? I just give you an example, right? A few years ago, some of you may have heard that a large company like Focus Media, right? So they had a wireless group because they sent a short message to recipients without the agreement from the recipients. So after this was broadcast by the CCTV, so that business line pretty much shut down. I mean, as a large company, they can be okay, right, without that portion of revenue. But for a startup, right, if the revenue completely rely on that business, that they could be out of business. So understand the policy, got the help from the government is definitely very important. So, but I also want to set right expectation for you, right? So government, true, is very helpful, provide all those benefits, all the incentives. But in order to be successful in China, you still need to fight in the market, right? You have to build the right product or services. You really understand the customer needs, right? One of the companies in Yangpu, right? I witnessed them actually be very agile, right? So over the last 2 years, they kind of change directions, 2 to 3 times, because originally they wanted to do something like provide a mobile OS, right? But after they built this OS, actually it was kind of successful, but they found out that they needed a low-cost product, be a very quick product to get to the market. So they changed the business model to be more focused on the applications, right? And that went well, but in the meantime, they kind of afraid of some large companies, will get into these areas. So they changed kind of strategy again. Basically is leverage their core competency and build on top of that and really understand the market dynamics, right? Another thing I like to mention that is the competition. In China, it's kind of different, right? In US, probably 2/3 of the private equity or venture capital exit came from merger acquisition. But in China, it's not the case. Probably the mindset is either survive or die, right? Of course, right now it's getting better. The reason I mention that is you have to have a strategy and also to be cautious about competition, right? When those large giants, right, come after you, it's very dangerous. It's very risky, basically. So you either kind of compete with the giant, right? Just maybe a small portion of it, or you kind of partner with them, how to balance this partnership with the larger giants. And there are some successful companies doing that, like the recently public company like YY.com, right? You see that the commercial board on the 101 highway. So it's very successful. The reason it's successful is in the meantime, they partner with the giants. They also found some areas that these giants have not been able to get into that yet. So they're being very quick. Again, back to my point is be agile, be quick, right? As soon as you build up that customer base, then you have a chance to be successful. Lastly, I want to mention that is you have to be careful about to retain your tenants. That's another thing, that you need to be aware of. That is the talent actually can jump around different companies quite often. So one of the things you need to look for is when you go back to China, you need to look at which location I needed to consider, especially the talent pool. So this look back to Yangpu, right? So it's a very good place to be, have tons of talents, right? Graduates from Fudan, Tongji, or other universities. So overall, I think that government role is very important, but I'm not telling you that you should 100% rely on government. You have to really do the business, fighting and the market by yourself.
How many people here has a company that would like to go into China? Raise your hand. Okay, excellent. How many people here have a company that thinking come into US? Okay, so maybe we can focus a little bit more on that. But I think to just be related to our audience, would you say it's fair to treat government as an investor? The same importance in terms of importance?
I think that's a two sides of that. Government definitely can invest the startups, but without any equity shares. So it's kind of free, right? Although it's a kind of initiation kind of fund. They have on the other hand, the government has its own venture fund, but that's same as the venture capital, regular venture capital. So yeah.
And you mentioned about recruiting. I think that's the question we get asked a lot, and we should ask the expert in the team here, Karina, and understand that you are a connecting platform that provides recruiting services for the client, for sea turtle. So we get asked a lot, how can we find best talent, and how can we manage it and retain them in China? And please feel free to share with us.
Well, it is a very big question, actually. And our clients include foreign companies trying to go into China, as well as Chinese companies doing outbound trade, basically. One very good example in the UK, I'm going to cite that because I'm based in London, so I'm not too familiar with Silicon Valley at the moment. Say Bosideng, which is one of the biggest retail brand in China. They recently opened the largest store on Oxford Street, which is one of the most busy. The busiest shopping center in London. They have a problem with finding Chinese talents who can understand the business model, but also understand the local market well enough to really let the business take off. So our advice to all these companies, regardless of the direction of trade, is really a lot of post-90s and even post-60s, post-80s professionals. They're looking at a lot more from the companies, because the educational level, the qualification has improved so much more. Instead of just a plain salary and a career path, they're actually looking for a lot more from the companies. So we think that if you're a Chinese company trying to do trade in the US or in the UK, you have to have a very transparent system about your career path, promotion, remuneration, things like that. It might be overlooked by a lot of HR professionals because they think we're a bigger brand, we don't really need to market ourselves too well, but actually it is a core element to most of the companies trying to do trade in the foreign markets, even though they have a big operations in China. So companies like Alibaba, when they open up their European office in London, they have the same problem as well. Whether they employ someone who is British, who will understand the British market, or should they employ someone from China who don't necessarily understand the local market very much. So things like that, is actually a core element for most companies. And obviously it depends on the nature of your business as well. But I would say retaining talent is definitely one of the biggest considerations.
Do they come to you and ask you the questions? Do you work with them, and then do they come to you and ask the questions?
Yes, we do, yeah. So in London, we have quite a big talent pool. Our website is actually visited by quite a lot of Chinese professionals based in Europe. So what we're trying to do, the services that we offer, is really helping these Chinese companies market themselves better to the foreign talents. Because, I think for returnees, so Haigui, for them to go back to China is actually a quite big strategic move. It's not something that you do overnight. It's not like you go on a job board, you find a job, you interview, and then you go back the next day. It's definitely not that. So we basically work with Chinese companies, helping them to market themselves better, as well as foreign companies trying to go to China. What kind of advice do they need? What kind of talent should they be looking at? Where do they open a representative office? Things like that.
I would like to ask the panel to give us some example of the company that they work together. Like, what are the stories and what the experience that they have by working with some of the companies? So, but I would like to also ask the audience to prepare questions. Please feel free to raise your hand for the question. I see one. Why don't we go for them first?
Hello, I'm from Holt. This is my favorite school, but I'm not from Stanford. Okay. And first, I would say the British accent is so sexy from this woman. I always looking forward to learn the British accent. Okay. My question is for the Yangpu governor, and I would say since I've done technology business in China with Insigma company, and I've learned about how it works. And for me, I would think government will be a lot more like an investor, but like a babysitter. And I was asked, would you like to outsource some of the service, like investment, deployment service, like consulting service, like marketing service, to other agency or other platform can get their people together, like HR people, and then to some kind of specialists to help you to attract some companies from the United States to China, to Yangpu, and you just offer some kind of very great policy.
Yangpu specifically, one of the reasons some of my clients actually went to Yangpu, one is what Mike just mentioned about this talent pool, but also I know that Deloitte actually have an office in Yangpu. So they do get service providers to locate locally, even in their own district, to provide sort of a real-time services.
So that's absolutely right. I mean, like as far as I know, okay, so it is open, right? I mean, as long as the people needed that kind of services, the government will provide. But one other example is Yangpu established a good relation with the organization here as a Bay Area Council, right?
I'm the internship in Bay Area Council.
Oh, good. So you know that. So Bay Area Council has an office in Yangpu, right next to the office I used to be. So yeah. So yes, absolutely.
And my follow-up question would be: would you prefer some big consulting company like the one and the woman from, and also McKinsey, like other consulting company, because their consulting fees quite expensive, or you would prefer some kind of local entrepreneur who would like to enter into this consulting service, try to build a platform and get all the big players into this talent pool?
You want me to comment on that? Well, I think there must be different market sectors, right? So I have clients who is a multinational company located in Yangpu, and certainly it will make it much more efficient for me to serve them rather than a small firm. Then I have to validate that's right? So I'm sure there are different market sectors can accommodate different level of service provider. And in reality is, I'm sitting here for representing Deloitte. I work with a lot of different consulting firms. I refer a lot of clients to them just because I know, somebody else might serve that market sector a lot better.
So would you do some kind of investment into my platform to be part of my consulting platform?
I would love to partner up.
Okay, exchange business card afterward. Thank you very much.
Any other question from the audience?
I just want to follow up maybe on the getting government help. My question is, sometimes when we talk to people, you hear about these government programs, and people will say, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get that government help, or I went to talk to this person, and then he told me to go to this other person, and then he told me to go to this other person, and it's 12 months later, and I still am looking for the government help. So I have two questions. The first one is, do you have any suggestions on how to more effectively get that help? And the second question I have, and I'll be very sort of frank and straightforward with this, is how much does the government help depend on your merits versus your relationships? So if I'm going and I'm looking for government help, would it really help my case a lot if I hire a local person who is, has good relationships with the government, or can I really stand on the merits of my own company and case itself?
Yeah, those are good questions. So let me start with the second question, right? So different government or different district government, right? They have different objectives, right? So they have different focus. I just can speak of Yangpu, right? So since it launched 3310 plan, basically we have a group of panel, in terms of judging, evaluating those business plans, right? And those panel actually is composed of venture capitalists, technology professors, and the business managers. So it is definitely it has to go through this vigorous process to evaluate out in order for you to win that the award. I say award basically is a free money. So right. Of course, the connections relationship is also important. The reason, so that's why every people come to me and say, okay, how do I get into that program? I say, I always encourage them to take time visit, right? Like visit the place prior to the competition or the business or the evaluation starts, right? That one people can know you better, because we usually receive a lot of business plans. Probably spend some time on that. But if you have chance to talk with someone, right, then they will have kind of impression. They will probably look at your business plan and see if that, which category it fits in, right? But I think in order to win the top categories, you need to have a strong merit, for that. Yeah. Back to your first question. Yes. I know different place or different government, they have different working flow, right? Yangpu, I know we have a centralized office. We call it Overseas Talent Office. So that is, they can take care of most of the things from, the specific location, the office, right? Even from the visa kind of applications especially for those talent, like we call the 1,000 talent plan people, right? And also will help you to have some kind of a green card, right? So have a medical card, those that they have, we call it, one-stop, kind of service, right? But all the places may behave differently. So I'm sure there are some places like that, but I can't tell much details. Yeah.
I had a question here.
Just one moment, just to give my view of this discussion. I am an entrepreneur, and I think that the most important thing for somebody that has a startup is, can you understand well your customer, and can you solve a problem? Can you add value to this customer? This is the most important thing to start a company. I respect all government, bureaucracy. My country, we have tons of bureaucracy as well, and I hate them. But the real thing is, you as an entrepreneur, do you solve a problem of a Chinese people, a Chinese user? If yes, go ahead. You will solve the other problems. Or you hire somebody that understands better the country and you solve the problems. I'm totally sure that my company will enter in China because I will solve some problem from a Chinese user. This is more important. The bureaucracy, you have government initiatives that solves this for you or help you, and you find this, you solve this. But concentrate your efforts. This is my advice. I'm sorry if I'm wrong here, but my advice is focus to solve a real problem. Solve the problem and make a user happy, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I have a comment and question. First of all, my exposure to China is very small. And let me give you two instances how I came in touch with China, Chinese people, and the culture. One of the companies I founded, one of my co-founders was an individual of Chinese descent. He became my right-hand man. Company raised more than $150 million. So I'm very grateful to him. And second instance was more recent when I traveled to India with Air China. And I thought everything was great, except for one particular area where I felt handicapped. And that was excessive emphasis on the Chinese language. I could not participate in many things. I could not understand the magazine. I could not understand the language. So my question to you, to the panel is, do you think people who are of non-Chinese descent, don't understand Chinese, can succeed in China? Thank you.
Michael, want to take that?
Here, I'll take it. First, I think Eduardo is exactly right. So, we're lawyers. We always focus on the legal problems, but that's the number one problem. All the other stuff doesn't matter if you don't solve that problem. And I think the answer to your question is exactly the same. You're not of Chinese descent. You don't understand the Chinese language. It is, I think, a disadvantage. People who understand the Chinese language and are of Chinese descent, and there are even different gradations of that. People who are native Beijing people versus native people from other parts of China versus Taiwan or Hong Kong. So people within China, they have sort of different statuses. But so it is a disadvantage. It can be a fairly significant one, but if you are solving a problem for people in China, you can overcome those disadvantages by surrounding yourself with a team that has those types of abilities.
My answer to you is no, you will not succeed by yourself, but you have to understand somebody in China that will partner with you and will help you to solve these problems and understand that culture. I'm answered like this because if you come to Brazil by yourself, you will not succeed because you will not understand the Brazilian way of life. There's an expression that is jeitinho brasileiro, is the Brazilian kind, how we work is different. Yeah. You have to talk about soccer to make business in Brazil. Yeah, it's true. It's true. If you invite somebody, a businessman, to have dinner, to talk about business, and you get a synergy talking about soccer, it's half of the way to close an agreement, to make business based on relationship, personal relationship. As Japanese guys, they spend 3 years developing the trust between me and you before closing an agreement. So you have to understand how Brazilian make business, and a Brazilian partner will help you to do this. A Brazilian lawyer will help you how to do this. And I really believe that in China it's not different. You have to understand the local culture. You have to understand the local mindset. You have to understand the local problems, and then we will solve this problem.
Vivian, you
Yeah,
want to make the based
I
on the
just have
comment? Just keep
one,
a second. Yeah.
one quick comment. You know, Deloitte has like about 180 office. I mean, we're in 180 countries, right? So I think our lesson is the fastest we can localize our team, the more successful that market entry is.
Just one quick comment on this. First of all, China welcome foreigners very much. I think you probably know that, right? But yes, true. I mean, in order to be successful, you need to understand the culture, right? You need to have someone to really work very close with you and build a relationship. So you definitely, if you have that, build up, you have, as they said, have solution to solve problems. I think that the government definitely will help you with that. So it's no question.
Okay, so you talk a lot about building the international talent pool and making that accessible to companies so that they can recruit from that. But on the flip side, I'm a recent graduate, so what can the individual do to make him or herself more marketable in today's international economy?
Well, I can start by answering that. I think for someone who haven't been to China, I'm not sure whether you have been there yet. You have, right? So what do you think about it? Do you think it was scary? You don't know the language? Okay. Okay. So for you, if you want to start now, if you want to look for a job in China, where would you start? Sorry? No, I don't mean location-wise, but I mean the means of finding a job. Well, and that's why yeah, you don't know, and that's that. That's primarily the focus of our business, because we think even for it's not just someone like you, but someone who's been based in the US, say, for 10 years, for them to return to China is hugely scary because you don't really know what's going on. You actually lose the competitive edge because you haven't been there for so many years. You don't know, how to, talk to the businesses over there. What kind of business conduct do they have? So our business really is to provide that information service for you to understand the market, even though you're outside of China. Understand what kind of markets are hiring, what companies are interested in someone like you. So I would say start by visiting our website.
What is the website?
Silu.com, SILU.com. Go on it now.
Bingo. So next one.
So two-part questions for Vivian and Michael. The first question is about the favorable cooperation, market entrance form. Do you think WFOE is still good or JV, particularly joint venture with those like regional government supported or sponsored local companies. Yeah, for the tax benefits or regulatory policy, some other, I don't know, benefits. This is the first question. And for Michael, could you please evaluate upon the legal, regulatory, even political risks for those foreign investment companies? Let's say in terms of technology and sectors, internet, we know the content censorship pretty strict in China. Also some like cross-border transfer pricing issues. Chinese governments, those authorities, they want to gain more tax from, audit from transfer pricing related party transactions. Thank you.
I think that 2 questions, it can write a book about it. So why don't we just take
Very
a
high
quick
level.
snapshot and then,
So from a the WFIF versus joint venture perspective, it really depends on your business model. You might be forced into joint venture because certain restrictions in terms of your industry. For example, internet content service provider, you might have to be in some sort of a joint venture or even VIE structure. So put that aside. Let's say you're not in restricted industry. From a tax perspective, the less you have in China in terms of IP or functions, the better you are. I mean, I work with a lot of government agencies in terms of getting supports, etc. But there's always a price to pay, okay? To get incentive, okay? And China, at a certain level, I mean, the tax rate is actually much, much higher compared to the U.S. because of the complexity of it. Secondly, I think it's the less it left in China will be better in terms of cash management perspective because they have a very strict in terms of foreign exchange control. So overall, I think it's more of a business model rather than just type of entity. Okay, you can't have any kind of entity. It's about how much transaction you want to actually happen in China from a tax planning perspective. Okay.
Let me just talk sort of 2 levels. One is legal and the other is government. So legal is not different than any other business aspects. The Chinese legal system is different than the U.S. legal system, just like Chinese business tradition or business norms are different than U.S. Business norms. And if you're going to that market, you sort of need to understand what the Chinese legal system is like. You can't just assume that it's a very bad assumption that it's going to be the same as the U.S. legal system. It's just that all the documents will be in Chinese. That definitely is not the case, right? So just to give you just some very short examples, one big difference in the legal system, a lot of the laws on the books look the same, but the way that they're implemented and enforced can be very different. So for example, the Chinese legal system does not have discovery. So discovery is, so let's say, I employ, someone and they leave my company, they go to my competitor, and I think that they've taken trade secrets. So in the US, if I have a reasonable belief that that has happened, I can start the lawsuit. And as part of that lawsuit, I get discovery, which means I get to go to the other company and they have to show me what actually happened. What did this person bring over with them? What does your product look like? Give me the source code so I can look for comments, that this was actually from my company, things like that. So it really makes it much easier to prove the case in the United States. It costs a lot, but at least you can have that. In China, they do not have discovery. So you go to my competitor, I suspect that you've taken my trade secrets and that software product that my competitor has is actually based on my source code. I need to go into Chinese court and prove that on my own. So it's a very different sort of legal system. So that's one example. On the government side, I don't know as much about government. I mean, we're a U.S. firm, so we primarily practice U.S. law, and so we will partner with the best and brightest Chinese firms. The things that I sort of hear sort of ad hoc is that as long as you're doing commerce in an area that doesn't really affect the government, they don't care so much. the areas that affect the government are things that have to do with national security or sort of, yeah, censorship, thought control, that type of thing. So sort of, controlling media and things like that.
Hi, booming voice. James Hines with Hines Media Group. I'm focused on mobile and internet software development education space. Anyone can please answer this question. It's really a take on the gentleman's question over there. Let's look reverse. When you're checking with companies from China who are looking to come into North America, outside of localization, anecdotally, what are the kinds of things that you advise them to look at coming into this market? Anyone can please take that.
I think that in my case, the competition here is huge. So you have to raise your bar in terms of product development, the quality of your product. We made some mistakes in Brazil that if we make these mistakes here, in terms of product quality or product quality, we will not succeed here. Because the competition is huge, because here you find people from any other country in the world that come here to start a company. So you have to raise your bar. My second advice is you have to keep your ears open to learn. And here in Silicon Valley, one of the magical things that I found here is you share your idea with a colleague in a coffee shop, and you hear your feedback, you receive feedbacks. And if you are open to improve your product and improve yourself based on these feedbacks, you will be stronger here. So keep your ears open to learn. Competition, of course, legal is important to take care. But again, the most difficult thing is understand your user and the problem that you are solving is a real problem in this country. Do you make the user life better or your client's life better with your solution? This is the most important thing. And things that works for a Brazilian user not exactly work the same in the same way here in US, and will not work in the same way in China. So keep yourself open to adapt your ideas and pivot if it's needed, but learn and validate your idea to solve a problem to a local user. This is the main advice.
I think so we have a fair number of larger Chinese companies that are trying to bring product to the U.S. And I think for a fair number of them, the ones that are very successful, they have concentrated for 10, 20 years on the China market. All of their production development staff are in China. They've been selling to the China market. Everyone, 90% of their staff speaks Chinese and not English. For those types of companies, so they're the #1 manufacturer of product X in China, and now they want to expand because they've captured the Chinese market. They want to come to the U.S. They are somewhat naive, right? They think of the U.S. market as just a single they think of probably of North America as just a single market. They come over here, they don't quite know, they have this aspiration to come to the United States, but they don't know how to do it. Right? They don't know how to get the sales force in place. They don't know what the distribution channel looks like and things like that. And so it really is, you need to get local help. They need to get local help, not only for legal, but more importantly for the business aspects of their company. So they need to understand the user. And quality, I think, is an issue. A certain quality that is acceptable in China can really get you into a lower quality that's acceptable in China, can really get you into problems in the U.S. When I just came back from Shenzhen, and Beijing, and we hear these stories about, such and such a company went into the medical devices area and they have, things that go into your body, aortic stent or, things like that. And they have a certain failure rate in China. And it's sort of okay because, it failed and then they'll fix it and improve it. Well, they better get it fixed before they come to the US.
Yes, so Deloitte side, I advise quite a few Chinese company in both greenfield expansion in the US or through M&A. Okay, so besides localization, I think especially on the M&A side, the management style, integration. So how do you integrate the team into the big sort of Chinese company culture? I think the ones that are very successful is made decision not to, okay, not necessarily have to integrate. Especially, I have one fairly large gaming company invested in Redwood City. They grow tremendously. And one of our HR sort of consulting advice project is helping them establish HR policies around how to remove layers of reporting chain, and at the same time give certain incentive for innovation, because that's the whole purpose they come to Silicon Valley. They're not to kill innovation. They want to give more incentive to that, right? And then there's another group of company that I advise. The issue they come into the U.S., they still have pressure from political aspect. Okay, the government still looking at Chinese company. Oh my God, they come in, buy assets, penetrating my market. Are they taking trade secrets? So another really pretty important practice for us is to build relationships between Chinese company with U.S. government. So the other way around. Lobbying services, similar. A lot of law firms in that we have sort of similar form services around that. So how to build active, sort of positive image, including, one thing that I'm working on is to establish a, sort of formal dialogue with U.S. tax authority, IRS, enter into agreement in terms how much tax they will pay in the U.S. and that way sort of like build more positive image, right?
I think on that front, I want to take a shot on that question. We have, Silicon Valley Bank has over 300 clients in China. Majority of them, it's in internet and mobile. Internet is a very, very difficult business for Western country to go in, and be prepared to pivot the model if you're smart enough. Because, if you open up a website in China and open up a website in here, it's very different. One of our clients is Tudou Wang, which is the Chinese, YouTube, yes, Chinese YouTube. When they first designed the website, it's very clean, but does not make money, does not get attractions. So you have to make it very busy, and in Western style standards, not really that, desirable, but that works in Chinese markets. That really have to, and the co-founder, one of them, it's a foreign entrepreneur from Holland. And he worked in China for about, he started with Mercedes first, and he worked in China in corporate world, and then he started entrepreneur, become entrepreneur. And he has a co-founder that, was born in China and raised in China. And takes a lot of pivot and argument to develop that, the trust, and develop product that works for Chinese markets. And also for internet business, anything related to content and payment, automatically you have disadvantage, because Chinese firms just going to win it. So you have to work on it. So anyway, so for the sake of time, I'm going to have two more questions from, please. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry.
Well, I'm an internet entrepreneur, and talking about government's roles in helping business, especially in China. I guess this is a question for you and Yang Pu. Government's role, it can be very pivotal, and especially more so than the case of Suzhou government helping the solar company Suntech, which is creating China's richest man in China.
But also the sudden rise and also fall of this company.
Situation that government was deeply involved, right? But right now, the things I'm kind of in touch with is mostly to help the entrepreneurs initialize their business or initiate their start up their ventures there, right? Suntech was back to several years ago, right? So right now, I think there's a lot of more definitely enhancements or improvement in terms of the government involvement in the entrepreneurs, right? So particularly in Yangpu, as far as I know is, so we have a different level of kind of environment. First, right, we provide this like a 3310 plan. That's just a free fund, right? No, as long as you need help, we can help. If you want to run your own, it's fine. Yeah, if you win that category, you can get that free money, right? It's just you need to set up office there. Of course, if you need more government help, the Yangpu government has, as I said, a few venture capital fund, right? So then you can go through that road, right? That's just as a regular venture capital fund. Other than a very deep relationship, then I don't know, because I'm actually, to be honest, I'm not working for a government, right? I just try to tell you what I observed as. Actually, I worked as a venture capital fund and one of the venture capital fund in Shanghai, Yangpu. So I happen to be in Yangpu. So I kind of observed all those kind of different environment of the government, right? From initial kind of help this entrepreneur set up in Yangpu, and also ask us, was at the venture capital forum, basically help the entrepreneurs to develop their business plan, to expand their business, right? And eventually some very good companies we invested. So I think those are two levels I observed, but other than that, I can't tell more.
Last question? Why don't we go last two? Because I know that before I say that, so yeah.
So I have a question. I am a member of Sulu.com, and yeah, it's a very good website. But the thing is, Sulu.com is more like attract like a graduate student to go back to China. So I don't know. Do you have the plans to like because some recent graduate, they just want to stay here for more experience, and also. I'm kind of like agree with the M&A process. Like if the company here, like startup company here want to go to China, M&A probably is the most effective way. But my question actually has two. One more question is about the M&A process. So which one do you think is more effective, like acquire a company or partnership, or like to have your own team in China? For startup companies, IT companies here in Silicon Valley?
Okay, I'll answer you very quickly on that one. At the moment, our focus is not really on graduates, simply because the demand in the Chinese market is for overseas professionals with certain qualification and experience. So really, for us, the demand is not really there. Not that it's not there, but it's not really such of a business model for us. But we do work with quite a few internship companies, in the UK, maybe soon in the US, to recruit someone like you. So watch the space.
Thank you.
Hi. You see, I just read the Wall Street Journal that some investors, actually entrepreneurs, they raise money and they couldn't return the money, then they sentence to death. Actually, 5 of this case, including one in this newspaper today. So we're concerned that if you go to China, you set up things, things turn against you, like environmental damage, things like that. Just like Suntech, CEO founded the company, then is prevented from leaving China. How do we guarantee? How do we have assurance that it wouldn't happen in the future?
I think that was that's a legal question, right?
Take it. Yeah.
The same question is, how do we guarantee that you start business here and then get?
Yeah, there's no guarantee, right? It's part of the risk. When you go to China, you need to understand how the legal system works and how it doesn't work, you know, and you need to assess all of those risks, and then you make a decision. So, I mean, there's always a risk. There is, you know, who knows? I mean, the same is true both on, you know, on the China and U.S. side, right? On the U.S. side, you know, China is an emerging power. U.S. is the existing #1 superpower. You know, it's not inconceivable that sometime in the future there will be a real clash between the two countries, and who knows what will happen to businesses that are on one side or the other. You just can't guarantee it.
Thank you. So lastly, I would like to have everyone in the panel to give 30 seconds of advice for the company who would like to go into China or internationally, I think.
Understand your user and solve a problem. Yeah, this is the most important thing.
Recruit the right talent.
I would say, you know, get local help. If you're going to China and you haven't been there, you should, you know, go yourself.
Yes, I think, yeah, you probably need to get help from the government, right? Try to, I mean, yeah, serious. I mean, like, if that's free money, right, get it. I mean, like, we have, like Yangpu, we have 1,000 the companies doing that. But in the meantime, don't rely on that completely, right? As I said earlier, you have to fight in the market, right? You can't just, oh, I used all the money, can you give me more? No, that's not the case. So they can help you, you know, set up, but you have to build a relationship, you know, do your own kind of, as they said, you know, understand the market, right? Understand competition, right? It's a very different environment. So you need to set the right expectation. Right?
So there's no money is free money, my experience. So I would just say don't be huyod, you know, for those. Yeah, so find some expert, even though you have a MOU in front of you with the government, find some expert, take a look at it, get the right advice.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.